Sometimes in the heat of the moment, we make promises we later regret. Today, day 8, we want to explore the story of Jephthah, a warrior who led Israel to victory but made a vow that cost him dearly. I consider this one of the most unfortunate vows in the scriptures. What can we learn about the danger of rash decisions and the heavy consequences that follow? Alright, let's dive into this tragic story. Israel was in a familiar situation. Once again, they had turned away from God and were being oppressed as usual, right? But this time, it was the Ammonites. The people cried out to God for deliverance, and God raised up Jephthah, a mighty warrior with a troubled past. He was the son of a prostitute, cast out by his brothers. He lived as an outcast. But when the Israelites needed a leader, they turned to Jephthah for help. Jephthah agreed to lead Israel against the Ammonites, but he wanted assurance that he would be made their leader after the victory. So, of course, the elders agreed, and Jephthah set out to battle. Before he set out, he made a very terrible vow. Very terrible vow. I consider it very terrible. He said, whatever comes out of his house to meet him when he first returns will be offered as a burnt offering. It seemed like a simple promise in exchange for victory, but as we know from the story, it was a rash vow that came with unforeseen consequences. And you see, that vow was actually not necessary because God was actually ready to give him the victory. So, but God gave Jephthah the victory. The Ammonites were defeated and Israel was freed. So Jephthah was returning home as a hero. But as he approached the house, the first to come out to greet him was not an animal, was not even a servant. It was his only daughter, dancing with joy to celebrate his return. When Jephthah saw her, Jephthah was devastated. Because of course he had made a vow, and in his culture, vows to God were taken very seriously. His daughter, his only child, was now the price of his victory, which was of course unnecessary. I'm saying that again. Right. I must say that this is a heartbreaking story, and it leaves us with many questions. Was Jephthah's vow necessary? Could there have been another way? Regardless of what our question is, it serves as a sobering reminder of the cost of rash promises. So, what can we learn from Jephthah's story? First, rash decision made in moments of pressure can lead to a devastating consequence. Don't make rash decisions. Jephthah did not need to make such an extreme vow. Whether you know what is coming from your house or not, just be specific. But in his desperation, he made a vow, and it cost him dearly. Of course, his only child. In our lives, we should be very careful not to make harsh promises, especially when we do not fully understand the consequences. Another lesson is God's victory does not require us to bargain with him. Jephthah's vow was unnecessary. If you read the story, you will know that God had chosen Jephthah already. He has been chosen as Israel's deliverer. We must remember that God's grace is not something we earn through vows or sacrifices. God's grace is freely given. And maybe the last lesson I'm going to give you is that it is important to weigh our words carefully. Jephthah's story teaches us that we should think before we speak, especially whenever we are making commitments, because words have power. And in this case, one man's word alter his entire future. Jephthah's story came at a tremendous personal cost, and his story challenges us to consider the weight of our words and action. May we be careful not to make promises in haste and trust that God's plan doesn't require us to bargain or manipulate. Thank you for watching. I want you to please like, comment, and subscribe.